Welcome, everyone. Would you please be seated? Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 56th Annual Deborah Morton Convocation Ceremony. My name is Cynthia Taylor, and I am the Vice Chairman of the University of New England's Board of Trustees. On behalf of the trustees, I'd like to thank you all for joining us as we celebrate and induct the 2017 Deborah Morton Society awardees to this great society, where they will join the ranks of generations of important Maine women leaders. I'm just going to wait a second until everyone is seated. This year, we are pleased to honor 3 women who, in the spirit of Deborah Morton, have made a lasting impact on the state of Maine and beyond. Mary Benito, Kristen Kristen, and Betsy Webb. These 3 women have achieved high distinction in their careers, dedicating their time to civic leadership, education, and advocacy. And as we bestow this honor onto them, we, as members of the University of New England community, are honored as well. For in their acceptance of this award, they recognize the legacy of Deborah Morton and the importance of this society founded at the University of New England. Thank you for being with us all today. It is now my pleasure to introduce Theo Calico, a member of the Deborah Morton Society Steering Committee and a 2006 Deborah Morton Society awardee. Like all the members of the society, Theo has been an important part of the economic, educational, and community service worlds in Maine. Theo, or President Emerita Calico, as we should address her, spent nearly 2 decades as the president of the University of Maine at Farmington. During her tenure at Farmington, she set the standard for community engagement and advocated fiercely for women's issues. She has been a solid leader in Maine for many years, and for that we are grateful. However, her leadership and recognition does not stop at the Maine border. In doing my requisite homework to prepare this speech, I found that there's an actual award named in her honor, the Theo Calico Award at Plymouth State University. This annual award honors a faculty or staff member who has significantly contributed to the advancement of women's issues. It's like having a modern-day Deborah Morton in the room with us. Theo, we are glad you are here today, and please join me in welcoming Theo Calico. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that introduction, Trustee Taylor. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, friends and family members of today's awardees, former Deborah Morton Society Award recipients, students, faculty, staff, friends, and members of the University of New England Board of Trustees. A special welcome to President James Herbert, who is celebrating his first Deborah Morton Society induction. So now I see that there's a page missing from my speech. That's not fair. Back. There we go. All right, here we go. Thank you, President. See, this is one of the main characteristics and attributes of really successful presidents. They're always prepared to bail the rest of us out of trouble. So let me go on now that I've got my speech back. One of the founders of the Deborah Morton Award and one of its first recipients was Dorothy Healy. Ms. Healy's association with Westbrook College spanned over 50 years as she served in various capacities, including being the founder of the Maine Women Writers Collection, which you can visit next door. In 1964, she wrote in the Westbrook Junior College Alumni News that Deborah Morton had taught her 2 lessons of immense value. First, that education is a never-ending quest. This lesson resonates with me as an educator, for lifelong learning has the capacity to open our minds, to feed our curiosity, and to keep us involved as active contributors to society. We have the privilege and the opportunity to keep learning from our human heritage and to pass this learning on to later generations. The second piece of advice that Ms. Healy remembers hearing from Deborah Morton is that every idea worth holding is worth doubting, testing, and evaluating. As a researcher, a teacher, and a citizen, I appreciate this life lesson. It has a special relevance to all of us in this season of our civic life. To the UNE students with us today, I hope these words become part of your own guiding principles. It's my privilege to serve a society whose namesake paved the way for women leaders in Maine and beyond, to develop their quest for education and to actively develop their curiosity. Deborah Morton is indeed a significant figure in the history of the University of New England. Her association began in 1876 as a student of Westbrook Seminary and extended to the 1940s as a member of the faculty of Westbrook College. Her love for travel fed her adventurous spirit. She traveled to Europe and the Middle East on at least 14 voyages. In those days, you went on the boat. And served in the vanguard of women who fought for equal rights on the social, political, and economic levels. Her friends, colleagues, and ultimately her students were the ones who benefited from her exposure to the world. Deborah Morton brought back from her travels a world of ideas from new perspectives. Today we celebrate Deborah Morton, we celebrate past award recipients, and we celebrate today's award winners. Congratulations to all. It's now my pleasure to turn the podium over to the president of UNE, James D. Herbert. I'll leave the book right here.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much. So I'm so pleased to welcome everyone to the 56th presentation of the Deborah Morton Awards. This is in July, when I first became president of the July 1st, president of the University of New England, former President Danielle Rippich walked me around campus, and I was immediately struck by just how beautiful the campus is, but also the marriage of deep technology and the modern infrastructure with tradition and history that this campus so embodies. It struck me right away. And I've learned more about this campus, UNE, of course, in general, but this campus in particular and its history in the weeks since assuming the position. And I'm especially impressed by Alumni Hall, all of our buildings, but Alumni Hall in particular, which was really the centerpiece of the Westbrook campus and provided an opportunity for women to have an education. The doors were open to women to pursue higher education studies at a time when the doors were closed to women in most institutions of higher education. Now that Alumni Hall has been renovated, and those of you who haven't seen it, it's really spectacular, but now that it's been renovated, once again, it's the heart of this campus where young women are once again studying, pursuing their passions, but this time in a wide variety of fields that are not limited by their gender. Deborah Morton was a prolific scholar, leader, reformer, mentor, teacher, and adventurer. She had all kinds of interesting experiences, as I understand. I've been reading about her and learning about her travels around the world. She inspired a tremendous thirst for education, and I'm really delighted that one of the first occasions at which I can officiate as the new president is indeed this society, this important group. And it's recognizing not only the rich tradition that comes with this ceremony, but recognizing these new women leaders for our time, and by inducting them into the Deborah Morton Society. The Deborah Morton awardees are nominated by members of the steering committee who really spend countless hours selecting awardees who fulfill the exacting standards set forth by the Society's guidelines. Those who served on the steering committee this year, I'd like to recognize Ellie Baker, Meg Baxter, Susan Carlisle, Kay Flanagan, Michelle Hood, Theo Calico, Pat Peard, Paula Silsby, Patsy Wiggins, and ex officio, our very own Danielle Rippich. The Deborah Morton Awards have been presented to over 200 women for the past 56 years, and many of the award recipients are with us here today. I'd like to invite all members of the Deborah Morton Society to please rise and be recognized. Thank you. And I would also like to thank all members of the steering committee for the many, many hours that they put into the task of choosing this year's reward recipients. I'd also like to take a moment to honor the 4 Deborah Morton Society members who've passed on since our last convocation. For Wilma Bradford, Dalo Ipkar, Lois Dixon Rice, and Mary Lee Call Smart, let us all please take a moment of silence in their recognition. We will miss each of them. So now I'd like to turn our attention to this year's award recipients. Today we celebrate the achievements of 3 truly remarkable women. And I've asked members of the Board of Trustees to assist in sharing the names of this year's Deborah Morton Society Award recipients. Our first trustee to do so is Story Landis.
On behalf of the Board of Trustees of the University of New England, I am delighted to present 2017 Deborah Morton Society Award recipient, Mary Bonato. Thank you.
Mary Bonato has served as GLAAD's Civil Rights Project Director since 1990. During her time, thank you, please. During her time in this role, she's litigated on discrimination issues, free speech and religious liberty, and relationship and parental rights. In 2015, she successfully argued before the United States Supreme Court in the historic Obergefell versus Hodges case establishing the freedom to marry for same-sex couples nationwide. Mary holds a law degree from Northeastern University School of Law, is the Scheiks Fellow in Civil Liberties and Civil Rights and lecturer on law in Harvard Law School, a 2014 MacArthur Fellow, and is currently on an advisory board for the American Constitution Society. It is a true honor to have her with us today. Please join me in welcoming Mary to the podium.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all. Thank you to the president and to the trustees for this incredible award, which I read about Deborah Morton, and she is incredible. I mean, she was incredibly learned and expert in a whole variety of fields. She was endlessly curious about what she didn't know, and she was incredibly generous in spirit in sharing what she knew, which is part of why she turned into such an adventurer and taking people abroad. And as someone who believes in the vital and transformative power of education, all I can say is hats off to her, and with great admiration, and I'm honored to join all of you and these incredible women who are also taking their learning and their generosity of spirit in so many fields. Now, as you've just heard, I've been focusing on law, and I want to be really clear, and I need to say this every time. I appreciate this award, but as somebody who works in an organization and has for 28 years now, it's called GLAAD, GLBTQ Legal Advocates and Defenders. I am really conscious of the fact that I do not work alone. I work in partnership with so many people, and it's never about one person. It's about all of us, not just at GLAAD, but whenever you're talking about making social change and advancing civil rights, it really needs everyone. So I just want to acknowledge that I'm somewhat of a stand-in here. But in terms of what law means to me, I will say that I guess you might think I'm naive, but I really have always believed in that whole liberty and justice for all. I've believed in the promises of our Constitution that in equal protection and that we come before our government, every single one of us, as equals. And speaking of the Constitution, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has talked about how the history of our Constitution is the story of extending constitutional rights and protections to those once ignored or excluded. And if you think about it, and you think about the 200 plus years of our nation as the United States, you can see time and again that we have wrestled with those fundamental promises and tried to make them true for people, dealing with race, dealing with gender, dealing with sexual orientation, dealing with immigration, dealing with being a nation that can have 800 faiths, and we're not in a civil war. So to me, these things are part of the promise of our Constitution and always worth fighting for. One other thing I guess I just wanted to say before I sit down is, at the end of the Obergefell opinion that was just referenced, Justice Kennedy says the petitioners who I represented, the petitioners ask for equal dignity in the eyes of the law. The Constitution gives them that right. Yay. So of course I believe that, right? But I just want to say that when it comes to justice, nobody hands it to you. You always have to fight for it, and I look forward to now being able to say I'm a Deborah Morton Awardee as I continue to fight for justice and look forward to joining all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you very much. I now call upon University Trustee Regan Gallagher to present her Deborah Morton Award candidate.
On behalf of the trustees of the University of New England, it is my pleasure to present 2017 Deborah Morton Society Award recipient, Kristen Maley.
Kristen Maley is the president of Good Shepherd Food Bank, Maine's largest hunger relief organization. Good Shepherd Food Bank works with a network of over 400 ending hunger organizations to distribute over 21 million meals throughout the state to people in need. Before her role as president, she was the founder and program director of Cooking Matters for Maine, a local chapter of Share Our Strength's nationally recognized cooking and nutrition education program for low-income families. Her nomination for this award describes Kristen's big-picture thinking and organizational and communication skills as having re-energized Good Shepherd Food Bank and re-established it as the leader of the food security movement in Maine. Kristen serves on the board of the Cumberland County Extension Association and has been a board member and treasurer of Big Sisters and Big Brothers of Southern Maine. She received her undergraduate degree from Boston College and her master's in business administration from Boston University, where she studied both entrepreneurship and nonprofit management. Please join me in welcoming to the podium Kristen Maley.
Thank you, President Herbert, UNE faculty, staff, and students, members of the Deborah Morton Society, and to my family, several of whom are here today, including my mother, who is a 1957 graduate of Westbrook College. It is with great humility that I say thank you, and to my fellow inductees, congratulations. To be included among this company of distinguished women is humbling, to say the least. We have been asked to share what inspires us, and upon reflection, I first must acknowledge the work that was done by those who came before me. Clearing the brush, paving the way, or whatever metaphor you select to apply, the concept remains that for women of my age, we truly, as they say, stand on the shoulders of giants. Women who had to fight far harder to be heard, withstand far greater judgment for choosing to follow their passion and challenge the status quo. So for all of you that came before my generation, thank you. I am inspired by people, and there are so many people in my life that I could point to as inspiration that it would take me more than my 4 minutes allows to thank them all. So I have to trust that you know who you are, because I'm compelled to focus my inspiration on one person today, and that is my dear friend, Kate. I've given thousands of speeches, but I had a feeling this one would be my hardest. I am frequently asked by people how I came to work at a food bank after having spent the majority of my career in finance. And my usual response is I was moved to do this work during the Great Recession, when I became disillusioned by the vast inequality in this country. I saw incredibly wealthy organizations able to maneuver to vehicles of safety before the worst of the crisis hit. And I even saw some financially benefit from the chaos that was unfurling. And then I would go home and see neighbors' homes for sale, some in foreclosure, despite gainfully employed, hardworking people. So I began volunteering in a local food pantry and listening to the experiences of the clients and how they were trying to create a better situation for their families. I soon found myself wanting to do more. I generally end my story there with one thing led to another, and I'm honored now to work for the food bank. But the truth is, the decision to leave the cushy and lucrative world of finance was not easy. My family and friends were all very encouraging, especially my husband, Drew, who never batted an eye that I was taking on a new job that required more hours for less pay. But my friend Kate was one of my biggest cheerleaders. She encouraged me to follow my passion and to ignore the part of my brain that was running calculations on lifetime earnings potential. I was concerned about being able to pay for my kids' college, and Kate reminded me that choosing my path was not just about my own fulfillment, but in modeling a life for my children. We can tell our kids the importance of serving others and of following your passion, but we all know that children are better imitators than they are listeners. So for someone who was most happy surrounded by spreadsheets, I remember Kate telling me, use your powers for good. And I'm so glad I listened. I soon realized that loving numbers and data can actually help you change the world. And Kate didn't stop after I made the career switch. She was there at fundraisers and other events, volunteering and helping right by my side. I focus on Kate's impact on my life today because last month we lost Kate when she was killed while riding her bicycle to the library. And I suppose I am still in those early stages of grief where so much of my time is consumed with making some kind of sense out of this seemingly senseless tragedy. So when I sat down to prepare these remarks to recognize the inspiring legacy of Deborah Morton, a teacher and a pioneer of women's rights, it became so clear that I needed to tell you about Kate. Kate was an educator and a librarian who had a passion for reading and learning, which she imparted onto her children and her students. In the past year, she also became a passionate advocate as she was awakened by the growing injustice that is unfolding in our country. She participated in the Women's March in Washington and the March for Science in Boston. She emailed and called our legislators diligently, encouraging them to stand up for those whose voices are not heard. She called on her friends and her family to do the same. Upon Kate's death, her family was incredibly moved when Senator Susan Collins had the flag over the U.S. Capitol flown at half-mast in her honor. All those calls and letters were actually heard. Senator Collins then mailed the flag with a plaque to Kate's husband and children that said, Kate spent her too brief time on earth advocating for children, for reading, for learning, and for making the United States the best place it can be. And I thought that sounded a bit like Deborah Morton. What I appreciated most from the senator's incredible gesture is the message that it sent to Kate's children. It told them that one person can indeed make a difference. You have a voice, and it is our responsibility as being among the privileged in this life to use our voice to speak on behalf of those who don't. So this is what inspires me, to continue the message and to push for the change that Kate so fiercely believed in, and to encourage all of us to use our powers for good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kristen. That was very powerful. Thank you. I'll now call upon our student trustee, Caroline Moore, to present her Deborah Morton Award candidate.
On behalf of the Board of Trustees of the University of New England, it is my pleasure to present 2017 Deborah Morton Society Award recipient, Betsy M. Webb.
Dr. Betsy Webb is the superintendent of the Bangor School Department. She served in this role since 2008 and has distinguished herself by increasing academic achievement, developing a 10-year strategic plan emphasizing academic excellence, professional excellence, quality instructional programming, and an environment for success. Dr. Webb was named the 2013 Maine Superintendent of the Year in 2012 and was the Maine School Superintendents Association's Outstanding Leader Award winner. She is the Alumni Hall of Fame at Hudson University, and in 2008 was selected as the Maine 2008 Administrator of the Year by the Maine School Libraries Association. Superintendent Webb serves on a number of boards in the Bangor community, is the president of the Maine School Superintendents Association, and a member of the executive committee representing New England and New York on the National Superintendents Association, or the AASA. Please join me in welcoming to the podium Dr. Betsy Webb.
"112 years. Mary Snow was the first superintendent that was a female in the state of Maine. She was hired to lead the Bangor School Department in 1896 and served in this role for 11 years. I find it unbelievable that this woman was entrusted with the care of running one of the largest school districts in the state, one of the largest employers in the city of Bangor, and yet she was unable to vote. 112 years later, I was the second female hired to be the Bangor School Department superintendent. Please know I consider it an honor and a privilege to serve in this position, for I truly love what I do. However, 112 years seems like a long time before another female was hired to be the leader. Last year, when attending the annual career night at our elementary schools, I learned that a young female student wanted to be a school superintendent when she grew up. During the 16 years I have served in the central office as an administrator, I have found students do not know what superintendents do. They usually ask me, "Are you my principal's boss?" So to hear that a student selected superintendent for her career choice was very exciting. Never had a student, to my knowledge, selected superintendent as their choice. They select teachers, doctors, musicians, actors, professional athletes. I thought maybe, just maybe, we wouldn't have to wait 112 years. So I went to the gymnasium where all the students were with their trifold poster boards with pictures of their selected career and their career report. And there in the back of the room, standing with her father, was Bethany. I said to Bethany, "You must really enjoy school and learning." And with her twinkling eyes and her big grin, she said, "Nope. I like my friends and I like recess." So I thought, I better try another approach. "Bethany, why do you want to be a superintendent when you grow up?" And I thought for sure she would talk about helping students to learn and teachers to teach. But Bethany shared, "I want to be the one that calls off school on snow days. And I like your clothes." Despite education being a female-dominated profession, male leaders run 75% of United States school systems. 76% of public educators in the United States are female, and this plays out the same in Bangor, where 76% of our teachers are female. I was elected to the Maine School Superintendents Association as the president, and last Friday at our state executive committee meeting, I noted that only 25% of that leading committee are females. As you heard, I'm also on the executive committee for our national organization, and I was honored to be elected for New England and New York superintendents. And on that committee leading our national organization, 25% are females that are elected, but our executive director did add 2 more females to bring females up to 40%. If you look at research on female leaders, I pretty much follow the trends. Women do not tend to apply for the position of superintendent unless they have all of the posted qualifications, whereas men tend to apply if they have at least 50%. I made sure I had all qualifications. Women tend to wait to be asked to apply. I was asked and encouraged and at times pushed by both males and females. Women report still being asked gender-specific questions in the interview process, such as, are you going to have more children? I was once asked at a public meeting, how will you handle being a mother and being a school administrator? And I would like to note I was asked by a female school board member. I took a moment and I answered, the same way the male administrators in this room handle being a parent and being an administrator. I was offered the position, but politely declined. Females report that their support systems are extremely important for their success. I have an incredible support system who inspires and motivates me every day, and this includes incredible role models, both male and female, who encouraged, asked, and pushed. This includes supportive school committee members, faculty and staff, parents, and community leaders. Point of note, the city manager in Bangor is a female, the first ever. This includes my parents, both of them educators who taught me to be independent and to believe in my abilities. I grew up hearing, your mind is as good as anyone, and you can be anything you set your mind to be. They are, and have always been, my most talented and influential teachers. This includes the best 2 sons and daughter-in-laws that one could ask for, and all 4 of them remind me of my responsibility to pave the way for others. This includes my husband, who keeps me balanced and then says, go for it. But who truly inspires me in this work are the students. I know all 3,824 Bangor students are counting on me to provide them the best education so they may be whatever they choose to be. Please know I continue to encourage Bethany that she needs to know science and math in order to read the Doppler weather maps. But Bethany keeps telling me that she really likes it when my shoes match my outfit. Mary Snow and Deborah Morton led the way, and we must use the research to know how to reduce barriers facing women moving into any leadership role. We must continue to educate, encourage, ask, promote, push, and support. 112 years is far too long to wait. I want to congratulate the other honorees. I want to thank the Deborah Morton Society, President Herbert, the UNE Board of Trustees, UNE faculty and staff, and students. Please know I am truly honored. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Betsy. You know, and I was just thinking, I want Brittany, Bethany? Bethany. Bethany would probably be very impressed if she could see the way we're all dressed up here today, right? See, tell her, this is how you dress every day. She'd say, that's the job for me. So please accept my sincere congratulations, all of you, on your induction into the Deborah Morton Society. We're so proud to have you as part of this family. And to all of you, thank you for coming to campus today to celebrate the accomplishments of all of these women. And I'll now turn the program back over to Theo Calico for her closing remarks.
I'd like to add my congratulations to those of President Herbert. You're an inspiration to us all. And every year when you come to the Deborah Morton Society, you hear stories that illuminate and impress upon us the beauty of the human condition and all the ways that we find to make it better every time. So thank you and congratulations. Thank you, audience, for joining us today for the Deborah Morton Society Convocation. For those who have previously indicated that they will be joining us for the reception in Alumni Hall, please proceed across the quad to join us. Members of the UNE staff will help direct us. Thank you all very much.